If you're looking to add a little spookiness to your day today, a great way is a Halloween podcast episode. I've compiled a list of some episodes that are Halloween adjacent and interesting, as well as some that are downright spooky. Happy Halloween! I'm Andy Smiley, the Friendly Podcast Guide. I'm a mom who has used podcasts to fight the boredom and loneliness of motherhood, and now I want to help you find a podcast that can do the same thing for you. It can be overwhelming to try and find a podcast you'll enjoy in the thousands of shows that are out there. That's where I come in. My episodes are short and they answer all of the questions you'll have about the podcast, so you'll know if it's a good fit for you or not. I'm here to help you find a podcast you'll love without wasting your time. Now, let's talk podcasts. The first Halloween episode I'm talking about today is from the podcast Stuff You Should Know. Every year for the past 13 years, the Stuff You Should Know podcast has done a Halloween spooktacular episode. In these episodes, the hosts, Josh and Chuck, do a dramatic reading of horror short stories. I can only assume that they will put out one today on Halloween, and the likely title will be something like the 14th Annual Halloween Spooktacular. But I sadly don't have Chuck or Josh's contact information, so I couldn't confirm that for you. But what I can confirm is that their 13th Annual Halloween Spooktacular was spooky and scary and a great way to get into the Halloween spirit. That episode is about an hour long, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes. The next Halloween episode is from the podcast Stuff You Missed in History Class. During the entire month of October, the Stuff You Missed in History Class podcast only does episodes that in some way relate to Halloween. It's a treasure trove of fun, spooky, and fascinating Halloween history that I look forward to every year. The episodes cover everything from the history of trick-or-treating to Bram Stoker, who's the creator of Dracula. One of my all-time favorite October episodes they did was actually a 2-part series on the building of the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland. It was super interesting and quite amusing, and each part is about half an hour long. I'll make sure to link both parts in the show notes. Before we talk about more Halloween podcasts, let's take a quick break to talk about my free podcast consultations. I've been able to talk to some amazing podcasters about their shows while doing interviews for the Friendly Podcast Guide. And along the way, I've learned so many tips and tricks on how to start a podcast from the hosts I've interviewed and from personal experience. I've talked to those hosts about what made their launch successful and what made it more difficult. And I for sure know what I would do differently if I could go back and launch my show again. And now I want to share my knowledge with you. I'm offering free podcast consults, and I have a couple of spots open in the next month. If you need help nailing down your podcast idea, figuring out your niche, or you have any other podcast questions, I would love to answer any and all of your podcast questions. If you're interested in working with me, fill out the intake form in the show notes. I can't wait to talk all things podcast with you. Okay, back to the Halloween episodes. Another great Halloween episode is from the podcast The Midnight Library. It's a podcast that somehow mixes coziness and creepiness into one fabulous show. Each episode welcomes you into the Midnight Library, where the hosts will tell you a fantastical tale that will most likely scare you at least a little bit. This podcast puts out eerie yet cozy episodes all year long, so any episode in their repertoire will be great to put you in the spooky mood. But if you're looking for a recommendation, a good one to start with is As the Crow Flies. It's filled with fascinating crow facts and lore. The episode is just under 40 minutes long. I'll make sure to link it in the show notes. The last episode on today's list of Halloween episodes is from the podcast Harry Potter and the Sacred Text. If you're a Harry Potter fan and haven't given the podcast Harry Potter and the Sacred Text a listen, you should definitely try it out. In each episode, the hosts discuss a chapter of Harry Potter like they would a sacred text, diving into the symbolism, applying it to their own lives, and other things like that. The episode I'm recommending you listen to today to get you in the Halloween spirit is about Chapter 10 in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Just a quick reminder, this is the chapter where the troll finds Hermione in the bathroom. The episode is about 40 minutes long. Harry Potter always feels Halloween-y to me, but the reason I chose this episode in particular is because of the Halloween feast that happens in this chapter. I'll make sure to link the episode in the show notes. I hope you have a lovely Halloween and that you can use one or all of these episodes to bring more spookiness into this fun holiday. Also, just a reminder, if you're wanting to launch a podcast but you don't know where to start, fill out the form in the show notes so we can hop on a free consult call so I can answer all of your podcast questions. Talk to you soon.